Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the very late review for Akatsuki no Yona, chapter 270. Now, the reason this is late is already on the channel. There's a video about that and stuff like that alongside all the other reviews and stuff. But also, this was definitely not on my priority list because, personally, there's not a whole lot here. It's more of, okay, what's going to happen next? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, I won't, there is a word for it, and I can't think of it, or a trope name for it, or whatever, but it's sort of like having a cliffhanger ending last a long time. To put it in One Piece perspectives, it's week to week Sanji's baking a goddamn cake. When you read it all through, it doesn't last that long, and Whole Cake Island is good, but on a week-to-week basis, it felt like Sanji was baking a cake for a goddamn year. You know what I mean? And it's not a food manga, so yeah, that was annoying, right? So, in this case, it feels the same way to me, like the cliffhanger, it's like, everyone's still in the chalice, everyone's still trying to get out, and now we're padding a chapter with the fucking here's what I can't say. Once again, I like Yona, I like Lily, and whatever, but like, discount Hawk and Yona. We're wasting a cover page on them, then we waste one, two, okay, it's only 2 pages, thank Christ. But still, 2 whole pages wasted on them talking about, oh, Ming-Yen, are you doing alright? No, I'm not. Fantastic. Don't care. Move on. You know what I mean? Like, and that's my biggest crux with this, is because, and honestly, the best part of the chapter is actually directly after that, like after page 2, because in page 3 we see that Zeno is picking up his own discarded arm, attaching it back on himself, and he's like, he's been here protecting and fighting against the other 3 dragons that have been manifested as soo-won threatens the Crimson Dragon King and stuff like that, right? And soo-won's obviously in a lot of pain and stuff like that, the Crimson Dragon illness and stuff. Like, that's really good. That's cool and stuff like that, right? But fact of the matter is that this is just more of the same. And I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying that we waited like a month for this, and nothing new happened until the very end of the chapter. You know what I mean? Because what ends up happening is, and as I said, it's really cool that we see like Zeno all beaten and bloody, and he's ready there to fight against, his own brethren and stuff like that, and he's reattaching himself, and the dragons are trying, and they're failing and stuff like that. They're tearing him limb from limb, and Soo-won's just there like, no, I will injure the Crimson Dragon King. You care about that. And they're like, before you can do that, we'll tear him to shreds. And finally, Soo-won's willing to do it, and he's like, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to cut his head off or whatever. Zeno immediately ends up grabbing Soo-won's arm. Now, this was a really cool sequence of the chapter. I won't lie. This was something like a little new. It's like, okay, is this Zeno himself? Because one of the dragons is down, and it's like, okay, all right, cool. And he's like, all right, well, in that case, and then boom, claw hand and stuff. And I'm like, all right, this is taking an interesting turn. And I'm not upset with how it went, like, how it concluded. But I was getting really hyped, like, oh, something new's going to happen. And realistically, it was just more of talking. It was more a talk-down sort of idea. So basically, the yellow dragon, Zeno, was overtaken by the spirit of the yellow dragon, who has not been as corrupted as the other dragons, but cannot stand to see the Crimson Dragon King's corpse mutilated. Cannot stand that. And nope. And immediately it's like, okay, yellow dragon, Zeno, don't do that. And the dragons recognize this. You're still our brother. You couldn't sit back and watch this. We're told that that's exactly what's happening, and we believe it. Zeno's trying to pull back on the power of the yellow dragon, and Soo-won just stands there and just takes it. He's like, alright, well, if this is my fate, this is my fate. Soo-won's standing there like a boss. It's all good. But he just like, Zeno pleads with the yellow dragon and says, even if everyone else is gone, I promise I will stay with you and stuff. And that's really nice and everything. because it says you can't do this. You'll be just like the other dragons. You know they're wrong. You know they've become too obsessive. But it's for the sake of the current Dragon King. It's for the sake of the little miss. You know that this is the right thing to do. You know, it's okay. You can keep me immortal. I won't try to kill myself anymore. Just please, I will live alongside of you, Yellow Dragon. You know, you won't be alone. Just please don't do this. And the Yellow Dragon concedes. And soo-won immediately, boom, and stabs the boss-ass move. Not gonna lie. So, from page 3 to here, I'm pretty good with this part. I'm pretty good with this sequence of events. I'm like, alright, things are moving along. Let's see what happens. Okay. And then, it just seems to me like immediately the dragons go nuts, because of course they would. And we see that the Yellow Dragon is still out of control with craziness. Soo-won once again offering himself up as like a sacrificial lamb, but he's like, make it last as long as you can, because he wants to buy Hawk and Yona time to escape the chalice and stuff like that. I can't tell you whether it's the Yellow Dragon who's looking so dismayed by this statement, or Zeno himself, or both, by saying buying time, like, if you're gonna tear me limb from limb, do it slowly, you know. So, and it's like, whoa. So yeah, that whole sequence, I'm behind. I hated the wasted 3 pages on the discount Hawk and Yona, because we're getting such good stuff here. And as I said, it's that cliffhanger syndrome right now. Once again, if you were to read 260 from 265, whenever they got locked into the chalice, okay, from 258 or whenever it was, and when this is all done, and you read right through, it's gonna feel like nothing. It's not gonna feel paused. It's not gonna feel too long and drawn out pacing. But because it's not even weekly, because it's monthly, and sometimes bi-monthly, now it's feeling like, okay, like, so as I'm rereading this chapter with you guys, doing this review, and I've read this chapter a couple times, but as I've been doing this, I'm like, wait, where was my complaint? I complained at the beginning of the video, and that was on purpose. I complained at the beginning of the video that this is like, pacing so slow, like, nothing happens, and it's like, we just want to get out of the chalice, we just want to do this and stuff. It's because we've been there for a long time. But once again, that's why I brought up the whole cake sequence, because that was the last time I remember a whole community just completely against the pacing of One Piece. But now everyone goes against what they said now that it's released in volume form and they can read right through it, right? So I bring this all up to say, as I'm going through, and yes, I think there was 3 wasted pages. This is all a good sequence. And things are happening. The White Dragon is down. Zeno has consulted with the Yellow Dragon. The corpse of the Crimson Dragon King was stabbed. You know, we have shit going on, and then we go and we finally see the dragons again. We see Kija, Shinha, and jae-ha right after this. So it's like, okay, maybe this chapter isn't actually like a snail's pace. Maybe this is just what happens when you start reading a monthly, sometimes, or bi-weekly or bi-monthly series that takes breaks. And it feels like we've been here forever, because we have been in real time, but we haven't been story time wise. You know, this will all compartmentalize in half a volume. Half a volume of Yona the Dawn is going to be the chalice. It's not even going to be a full volume. That's how short it's realistically going to be. And that's why I brought this all up at the beginning, because this is actually quite a good chapter. Overall, 3 wasted pages at the beginning, and then straight, really, really good. And we get the Happy Hungry Bunch are reuniting, except for Yona. So it's not truly the Happy Hungry Bunch once again. Though I will say, the Darkness Dragon shows up in this chapter, and I'm so happy about that. I am so happy about that, because, you know, they're discussing what they can do and stuff like that. and they immediately think that Hawk is this illusion and stuff like that. They start slapping it around, beating me. It's grabbing me. What is going on? They're like, oh, Yona dear. And Yona's like, are you guys okay? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. But wait, there's an illusion of Hawk here, so don't pay attention to him. And Key just still like whacking the shit out of him and stuff like that. And it's just like, whoa, wait a minute, this is an imposter. It's like, no, that's the real Hawk. It's like, what do you mean that's the real Hawk? What? And it's just like, okay, so I would argue this is a good scene. I don't know if comedy was the right, if levity right now was the right direction. Personally, it's a hard choice. I like to think that the mangaka thought long and hard about this choice, because I like this scene and I like the comedy. I would argue a more emotional, serious reunion would have been better. Not saying this is bad. Just saying I think it would have been better. But either way, it's not a full criticism. Once again, I'm not a famous mangaka with, millions of viewers, so what the hell do I know? But I'm just saying, like, from reading many hundreds of manga, I don't know if this was the right direction. Either way, they do get to the down and dirty about getting to the exit and stuff like that. They go through a lot of dialogue, which once again, they need to go through, like, this all needs to happen. But they basically explain, like, alright, so how are we going to get out of here, by the way? We're at the bottom of the pool, but this, that, the other thing, this is a dimension. We have no idea what the fuck we're doing. We, as readers, don't even know what the rules of this dimension are, because it's all left in the mystics, right? It's a soft magic system, so we have no idea of the restrictions of it whatsoever, and neither do our characters. So we go through that stuff. Then the white dragon appears, and says, Crimson Dragon. So one of them came back. So the white dragon, the yellow dragon attacked us. I came back to basically the spirit world to heal my wounds, back to the heavens to heal my wounds. My body is disappearing, but I can get my fragment. If I eat the fragment, I can take, and tries to go after Kija, and immediately the darkness dragon shows up and literally, boom, gets in the jaws of a literal dragon god and says, stomp down, hands up, fuck you! And I'm 100% good with it. Yeah, I believe Hawk could literally open the jaws of a shark, or a dragon in this case, and hold them open. That is physically impossible to do for any human ever, to hold open a crocodile's jaws at full biting strength. Or what is it? A shark's biting strength is like so many newtons or whatever like that of biting. Anyways, apparently like sharks and crocodiles and a few of them, I could be wrong about some, but there are animals on Earth with giant jaws that can then eat people, that could eat people, that nobody could do that. No, it's impossible. You could not, if they tried with all force, no man can do this. You know what I mean? It's impossible. And boom, he's freaking doing it. He's slowly losing, and he's bleeding, but he's actually doing it. And Keith just like, no, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know? And he's like, I'll fight even if it's impossible. I'm like, that's a Hawk thing to say. You know what I mean? Because he's, once again, the Darkness Dragon. So at the end of the chapter, Yona recognizes, I guess, that she thinks she can pull out the sword. For some reason, she's able to pull out the sword. I guess it's the sword. I mean, Soo-won has the sword, but this is like the spirit version of the sword. Once again, soft magic systems. Makes no bloody sense, realistically. And that's how people are able to pull out plot devices out of their ass when you have a soft magic system. Because you can basically say, oh, this person can do this right now because... And you never need to explain it. Soft magic systems sort of work that way. It works very well in The Lord of the Rings. Here it's feeling a little plot device-y because technically the sword is in the possession of Soo-won right now. So I would argue that, you know, since we don't know the limitations of the world, this isn't exactly a dream world where she can manifest her imagination or what she believes in, you know. It's not an imaginary world. It's not a dream world. It's the heavens. And just because the dragon gods conjured a sword, once again, everything's an illusion. So wouldn't I would argue that this sword thing sort of makes no sense. It kind of bothers me at the end of the chapter because it's not the physical sword. The physical sword is soo-won's using right now. This would at best be an illusion, and at worst wouldn't do anything anyway because it's not the real thing. But once again, soft magic system you don't need to explain, so we're going to assume that this is the full-blown sword. Yona pulled a Deus Ex sword out of the blood pool, you know what I mean? Not too happy about it, but is what it is. She pulls it out and says, "Oh right, this is the sword that I could have used to kill Zeno and stuff, but the power of the dragon gods have grown weaker. Now's my chance to break open the chalice." So she pulls the sword out not to hurt the white dragon who's biting down on Hawk, but to shatter the bottom of the pool and try to break open the chalice. I assume next chapter the chalice will be broken, and we will definitely get there. So that's actually next month, actually in only a few short weeks from here, because this review is so late. So yeah, anyways, I hope you guys apologies for being late on the chapter and stuff like that, but I really like the retrospective thing I sort of did here in this chapter review, talking about the idea of like at first, and once again, I didn't mean to play you guys, but I was setting up a point saying like, this chapter feels so drawn and blah blah blah, and to build up that most of the chapter was actually quite enjoyable. Things moved along at a good pace, and there was nothing really that wrong with the chapter. It just feels like we've been here in the same spot for so long because it's a monthly series, because of this, and sometimes I even tend to forget that. You know, and I'm sure that in previous Yona reviews, I've criticized that very thing when realistically, if I were to look back, I would probably say, I don't know what I was complaining about upon a reread. You know what I mean? So, once again, it's one of the hindsight not deja vu, but the hindsight paradox. It's not a paradox, but anyway, you guys get what I mean by hindsight. Hindsight's 20/20 sort of saying. So either way, yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of the whole sword thing because it really makes no sense. Other than that, everything was pretty good. The 3 pages at the beginning wasted time, and the sword thing kind of bothered me, but the rest of it, pretty damn solid, especially the Zeno, Yellow Dragon, and soo-won aspect. Really damn good. Really damn good. And Hawk at the end just showing off, like, oh, it's a dragon god. Well, I'm not able to stop it. Fucking gonna stop it anyways. And I'm like, I'm not gonna disbelieve that. You know, like, sometimes when you set up a character to be that badass and be that cool, you're just like, that makes no fucking sense. But I don't really care because it's Hawk, so I'm just going to buy it. You know what I mean? And when the majority of the community just sort of accepts that fact, and it's not like it's more like it's fine. You know what I mean? Escanor gets the same treatment in 7 Deadly Sins. You know, there's other characters like that. Gojo in Jujutsu Kaisen gets the same. You know, sometimes it's like, alright, that's a little weird, whatever, it's cool, you know what I mean? Because if you establish a character of just being too cool for school levels, then they can get away with a lot of shit. They can get away with a lot of shit, because if you didn't like Hawk, you'd be like, this is bullshit, and you wouldn't be wrong, technically. He's literally a human, that's a fucking dragon. Forgetting the god aspect, there's no fucking way he's doing that. But it's Hawk, and we all love Hawk in the Yona community, so we don't give a shit, you know. And I'm one of them. I'm just saying, you know, from an outsider, unbiased perspective, somebody would call bullshit. I'm just saying. But anyways, no, I liked the chapter. I thought it was really good. As I said, couple of nitpicks here and there, but overall pretty good. And I'm glad I had this opportunity before 271 drops to explain. Like, sometimes I can be wrong about if I ever complain about the pacing and stuff like that. It's because when you initially read things like this and you only get 6-7 chapters for half a year, and it seems to move so slowly, sometimes we forget that it's only been 7 chapters, not 20, not 30. It's only been a chapter a month. You haven't read nearly as much as you thought. You know what I mean? So, anyways, is what it is. Hope you guys all enjoyed. Gentlemen and ladies, like, comment, and subscribe as always, and we'll see you back here for chapter 271 next month, apparently dropping in early July. So, look forward to that. I hope that one will be on time. So, see ya.